Have you ever been so desperate that you were willing to make a deal with the devil? I have. My devil was a man named Victor, and the deal he offered was my freedom in exchange for my brother's life. I was 23 years old, and I was about to say yes to a loveless marriage, a life sentence in a golden cage. But in my darkest moment, in a single terrifying act of defiance, my whole story changed. My name is Emma, and this is the story of how I ran from a monster and stumbled into the arms of a savior. It's a story about impossible choices, unexpected kindness, and a love I never saw coming. My life before all of this was quiet and hard. I live in a little town called Blue Ridge Valley, a beautiful place surrounded by forests and hills. But beauty doesn't pay the bills. After our parents passed away, it was just me and my younger brother, Ben. He's only 17, and he's my whole world. I became his sister, his mother, his guardian, all rolled into one. I worked at the local bakery, and every penny I earned went to keeping a roof over our heads and food on our table. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Then one night, everything fell apart. Ben came home, his face pale, his hands shaking. He told me he was in trouble. Bad trouble. He'd borrowed money from some dangerous men to fix his old motorbike, and now they wanted it back with interest. He said if he didn't pay them, they were going to hurt him. Maybe worse. My blood ran cold. I looked at my sweet, scared younger brother, and a fierce, terrifying wave of protectiveness washed over me. But what could I do? We had no savings. We had no one to turn to. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing, searching for a solution, any solution. And then a name surfaced in the darkness. Victor. Victor was the richest man in our town. He was in his mid-30s, and he owned a string of car dealerships. He lived in a huge, white mansion on a hill that looked down on the rest of us. He was handsome, I guess, in a slick, polished way, but there was something about him that always made my skin crawl. He'd come into the bakery sometimes and look at me with this possessive, hungry glint in his eye. "A pretty girl like you shouldn't be working in a place like this, Emma," he'd said once, his voice a low purr. "You should be with a man who can give you a better life." I hated him. I hated his arrogance, his entitlement, but now he was my only hope. The next morning, with my heart pounding in my chest, I walked up the long, winding driveway to his mansion. He met me with a wide, predatory smile. I didn't waste time. I told him everything. I told him my brother was in danger, that I needed money, that I would pay him back every single cent. He just leaned back in his expensive leather chair, that smug smile never leaving his face. "Of course, I'll help you, Emma," he said. "But there's just one condition." I knew. In the pit of my stomach, I already knew. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He leaned forward. "You have to marry me." The words felt like a slap. I don't love you," I stammered. He just chuckled, a cold, empty sound. "Love has nothing to do with it," he said. "You need my money. I want you. It's a simple transaction." I felt sick. I just stood up and walked out, tears of rage and humiliation streaming down my face. But that night, as I watched my brother sleep, his face creased with worry, I knew I had no choice. I would do anything to save him. The next day, I went back. I agreed. He handed me an envelope stuffed with cash. I felt like I had just sold my soul. That night, I couldn't stand it. The guilt and self-loathing were eating me alive. I grabbed the envelope and walked back to his mansion in the dark. I told him I couldn't do it, that I had to give the money back. His smile vanished. His face turned dark with anger. "You think you can just play games with me?" he snarled, stepping towards me. "You took the money. The deal is done." He was backing me into a corner. I was so scared. My eyes darted around the room, and I saw it. A heavy glass lamp on a side table. In a blind panic, without thinking, I grabbed it and I swung. I hit him hard. He crumpled to the floor. I didn't wait to see if he was okay. I just ran. I ran out of that cold, silent mansion and into the dark, tangled woods. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they would give out. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. Finally, through the trees, I saw a faint light. A small wooden cabin nestled deep in the forest. It looked dark, but there was a flicker of what looked like a fire inside. With the last of my strength, I stumbled to the door and knocked. A young man opened it. He looked shocked to see a wild-eyed, terrified girl on his doorstep in the middle of the night. "Please," I sobbed, the words tumbling out. "I have nowhere to go. Can you please help me?" He just looked at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. And then he stepped aside. "Come in," he said, his voice quiet and calm. His name was Daniel. He was a few years older than me, with kind, gentle eyes and a peaceful presence that was the complete opposite of Victor's sharp, predatory energy. His little cabin smelled of wood smoke, tea, and old books. He wrapped me in a thick, warm blanket, sat me down in a chair by the crackling fire, and just let me be. "You can rest here," he said. "I won't ask any questions tonight." I stayed there for 3 days. He gave me food and warm clothes and the incredible, priceless gift of his quiet, non-judgmental company. On the second day, I finally found the courage to tell him everything. He just listened, his gaze steady and compassionate. "You did what you had to do to protect your brother," he said when I was done. "Sometimes life doesn't give us easy choices." His understanding, his lack of judgment, was a balm to my wounded soul. There was something about him, about his quiet strength, that made me feel a sense of peace I had never known. But I knew I couldn't stay. I was a liability, a danger to this kind man who had taken me in. On the third day, I told him I had to leave. As I walked away down the forest path, I looked back one last time. He was standing in the doorway, watching me go. And in that moment, my heart ached with a strange, new kind of sadness. I was walking away from the only safe place I had found. I spent the next few days in a cheap motel, using the last of Victor's blood money. I managed to get the rest of the cash to my brother, and he called me, his voice full of relief. He was safe. The men were gone. But I wasn't. I couldn't stop thinking about Daniel, about his kind eyes, his calm voice, the way his little cabin had felt more like a home than any place I had ever known. I told myself it was just gratitude. But it was more than that. I was falling for the man who had saved me one morning. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed my small bag and I walked back into the forest. I found his little cabin just as the sun was setting. I knocked on the door, my heart pounding. When he opened it, a slow, beautiful smile spread across his face. "You came back," he said. "I came back," I whispered. I told him everything, that I couldn't stop thinking about him, that I thought I was falling in love with him, and he smiled that gentle smile and said, "I've been thinking about you too, Emma, every day." Our love story bloomed in the quiet of that little cabin. It was a slow, gentle, healing kind of love, but our peaceful bubble was destined to burst. One evening, a car came roaring down the dirt road. My heart stopped. It was Victor, and he wasn't alone. Daniel stood in front of me, a protective shield. "Leave her alone," he said, his voice calm but firm. "She owes me." Victor sneered. "She owes you nothing," Daniel replied. "She tried to give you your money back. You're the one who wouldn't take it. Now leave before I call the police." Victor, for all his bluster, was a coward. He spewed a few more threats, promised I would regret this, and then he was gone. But we both knew. It wasn't safe for me here anymore, Dot, so we left. We packed up our few belongings and drove, with no destination in mind, just a shared hope for a new, peaceful life. We found it in a small, quiet village nestled in the mountains, a place even more remote than Blue Ridge Valley. Daniel got a job as a teacher at the local school. I started working in a little craft shop. We were happy. We were safe. We were together. A few months later, he asked me to marry him. And this time, when I said yes, it wasn't out of fear or desperation. It was out of a deep, true, and healing love. We got married in the garden of our little rented house, surrounded by the kind people of our new village. Sometimes, at night, I still have nightmares about that cold, dark mansion. But then I wake up, and Daniel is there beside me, his hand in mine. And he whispers, "You're safe now." I'm here. And I know with every fiber of my being that I am. I made an impossible choice that night in Victor's house. I chose to fight back. And that one terrifying act of bravery led me here, to this man, to this love, to this peaceful, beautiful life. It led me home,